Hey, what is up, fellow Raiders? This is Vulcan Dan, and in today's Raid Shadow Legends video, we will go through the Reflex set because we do have a special event right now from the Ice Golem tournament, ×2 chance of getting Reflex gear, which I think, in my opinion, is the best gear that you can get from the Ice Golem, which is, of course, probably the worst dungeon that you can run here in Raid. Other than the reflex gear, I think the other worthwhile things to get here, we have the resistance gear, we have the one that does provoke, probably defense and maybe crit rate for early to mid game. But other than that, I think the best gear here, I think, is the reflex gear. And of course, now is the best time for you to run Ice Golem. We do have an Ice Golem tournament live right now, as well as a Dungeon Divers, so you can double dip your points there and of course get your reflex gear. Now in this video, we will talk about which champions will benefit the most using reflex, especially from a free-to-play player perspective. All right, so we did get a defense shield right there, but yeah, defense is not a bad set to have, especially in the early game or mid game. Towards the late game, you would want other kinds of gear. But yeah, let me just talk about, of course, I think the most favorite champion that everyone's talking about to be using reflex is Coldheart. Yeah, because of course Coldheart is well known for her A3 Heartseeker. It is on a 4-turn cooldown. Reflex gear will give you a 40% chance every single turn to reduce a random skill cooldown by 1 turn. All right, so if you have those high impact skills that have a long cooldown, those champions are the ones that you want to be using reflex gears, of course. Coldheart with her Heartseeker can really speed up your runs, especially if you can reduce this from a 4-turn to a 3-turn, or maybe even a 2-turn if you get lucky. And yeah, and of course, she does have her A2 right here, and the reflex gear can or has the chance to reduce this skill instead. But to prevent that, you can simply deactivate her A2 using the team setup feature that the Raid has. So if you deactivate her A2, which is for most cases, you don't really want her doing her A2. It's not that great. It does have decreased accuracy and poison, but I would say that by deactivating her A2 using reflex and just having more chances to get this Heartseeker up and running, especially when you're doing something like a spider run, which is where Coldheart would do really well in. Yeah, so Coldheart, I think, is the best, especially from a free-to-play perspective, to be using reflex. Another one is a legendary that a lot of free-to-play players should get because he is a permanent fusion, and that is Razin. Yeah, Razin has a 6-turn cooldown when booked, so this is normally on a 7-turn cooldown. AoE decreases the turn meter by 100%. This is a very strong skill, which is why it's on such a long cooldown. If you have reflex, you can reduce this to potentially around a 4-turn, maybe a 3-turn cooldown if you're lucky, if you get those 40% procs. Reflex in the past used to be 30%. It was bumped up to 40, and a lot of players started using it a lot more. So yeah, Razid, really good. Just imagine him with reflex and you're running Lizardman Faction Wars or Doom Tower or any of the dungeons. You're going to get this A3 bogged down a lot more quicker. It's a high impact skill, hits really hard, and of course it's like getting an extra turn for your entire team because he will decrease the enemy turn meter by 100%. So yeah, Razin, Coldheart. What about champions that you would not want to use reflex gear on? So these are the champions wherein you really want them to use their A1 a lot because their A1 is probably the most impactful thing in their kit. Someone like a Vizier. Vizier is well known for his A1, so you don't really care for his A2 or his A3 because you just want his A1 to go multiple times, so you don't really need to reduce the cooldown of any of his skills, especially for clan boss. A1 all throughout the fight. Also, someone like an epic champion such as Let me see if I can find him. There you go. Phoenix, yeah. Phoenix, also a great champion for the Ice Golem. His A1 hits really hard, hits twice if the target has any debuffs, which of course you would want to be placing debuffs on the enemy. So yeah, this is a very hard hitting A1, really hits like a like a big truck. His A2 is a nice skill, AoE block buffs, but I really just want to keep him to keep on using his A1. His A3 is a single target with only a very low chance, 60% chance of placing decreased defense and decreased speed. So I don't really, not really a big fan of this A3 right here. So for Phoenix, I really just use him for this A1. Also, it places a block revive, so it's great for the Ice Golem. Yeah, so Phoenix and someone like a Vizier, do not use reflex gear on them unless of course you're really looking forward to this block buff. But champions like Razin or Cold Heart, you would really want to use your reflex gear on those champions that have a long cooldown on high impact skills. And lastly, especially for those early to mid game players who are looking for other champions to use their reflex gear on, revivers. Your revivers such as Ursula the Mourner will definitely benefit from reflex gear, especially from early to mid game wherein you still have a lot of squishy champions. They're probably dying a lot, so you need those revives. But the thing is, revives tend to have a very long cooldown. Ursula the Mourner has a very good revive, revives all dead allies with 75% HP, fills their turn meter by 50%, places increased defense and strengthen to everyone, but it's on a 5-turn cooldown. Now, maybe one of your champions died, Ursula will use this skill, and then of course it's on a 5-turn cooldown, and then another one of your champion dies, but you have to wait for 5 more turns before Ursula gets this back. But if you have reflex gear on, maybe that 5 will become 4 or even 3-turn cooldown, so you can finish those runs faster or much easier with a reviver that has reflex gear on, especially useful for early to mid game players. Again, if you have a lot of your early game champions dying a lot, especially like if you have a lot of attack type champions like Kale, Galek, or any of the starter champions, and they're dying a lot, make sure you have a reviver with reflex gear on. All right, that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much. I hope you found this useful, especially if you're a free-to-play player, beginner. Yeah, and if you are a free-to-play player or a beginner or a early game, mid game player, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I do a lot of free-to-play friendly or beginner friendly content. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in my next video.